The religious leaders of Jesus' day were always looking to trip him up, put him on the spot with aha, sort of gotcha moments. So one day, they said, "Teacher, we need you to settle a debate for us. We're God's people. We belong properly to God. What's more, even if we did have a king ruling over us, it shouldn't be Rome, Gentile people who are oppressing God's people. So tell us, good teacher, is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar?" "Well, that depends," Jesus said. "Who of you has a coin on you? I'm out." And someone procures a coin, and Jesus says, let me see that. And he says, it's just what I thought. Look at this coin. Look whose face is on it. It's Caesar's. It belongs to him. You might as well give it back to the guy. But don't you forget to render to God the things that are God's. There's very little that will work an American up like taxes. Our nation was founded on our hatred of taxes, after all. No taxation without representation. And no accusation is more potent in the political landscape than to say, my opponent will raise your taxes if they get elected. You need to elect me into office. Everything will be cheaper if you do. There's an entire industry dedicated to providing us tax advice, legal ways to get out of paying the government what we supposedly owe the government. And we're grateful for such industries. I certainly am. You are as well. Because at the end of the day, we bristle against the idea of being coerced into giving away anything we believe is rightfully ours. I suppose when it comes to giving God the things that belong to God, we don't approach that any differently. We never have. We hear Paul's admonition in this morning's epistle reading to present our bodies as living sacrifices, and we get a little uncomfortable. God forbid it, Lord, Peter cries out when he hears Jesus say that the Messiah is going to go to Jerusalem to be given over into the hands of sinners to suffer and to die. And we're right there with Peter, if we're honest. We want to live as though suffering and sacrifice are not intrinsic components to the Christian life, but they are. So Jesus responds to Peter and says, if anyone wants to follow me, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life here and now is going to lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. It turns out that no one can approach God without sacrifice. Following Jesus will invariably mean sacrifice and loss, either in this life or in the life to come. Now, it's not that we're entirely adverse to making sacrifices. There's the student who lives on instant ramen while working his way through college to minimize student debt, or the single mother who forgoes the latest clothes or luxuries to ensure that her child has the things they need. The corporate employee who works slavishly long hours to ensure that they can retire on schedule, or the parents who suspend their social gatherings for a season to make sure that they can be part of all the many things that their kids are doing. We sacrifice all the time when it's able to be on our terms, or when it benefits us in some way. The question isn't if you present yourself as a sacrifice, but to what? To whom do you sacrifice yourself? Christian lives are spent as living sacrifices, not on the altar of self or even on the altar of family or on any host of good things, but on the altar of God. Which is to say that following Jesus is a costly endeavor. In the end, it will cost us everything we have. The God whose image you are in, who has laid claim to you in baptism and has called you his beloved child, this God is a demanding God. he will settle for nothing less than all of you, self, soul, and body. Such sacrifice is an uphill battle in a world such as ours, a world that is hell-bent on conforming you to its image. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, St. Paul goes on to tell the Romans. Don't be conformed, instead be transformed. Both of those verbs are passive. They are done to us. Don't be molded into the image of the world around you. Instead, be transformed by the God in whose image you were made. Going back to the image of a coin, I remember going to the Brookfield Zoo just outside of Milwaukee as a child. They had these penny press machines that would take a penny, flatten it out, and stamp the image of a zoo animal on it. As a kid, it was a pretty cool thing to see. Suddenly, as the handle moved downward and these giant gears began to turn, a round penny with the image of Abraham Lincoln would soon take the form of an oval and become a collectible medallion with a penguin or a fox, or, if you're lucky, a giraffe stamped on it. That's the sort of visceral concept that St. Paul has in mind, of being squeezed into the world's mold, its priorities, its presuppositions. Without much effort, we begin to repeat the stories that we hear and that are told to us. And as God returns in the cool of the evening to walk among us, he asks, as he asked our first parents, "Who told you it was this way? You didn't hear that from me. Who told you that the only way to raise successful children is to have them in an endless rat race of activities? Who told you that retirement was all about playing golf and taking multiple vacations each year? Who told you that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was the end game, the ultimate good to chase after? Who told you these things? It wasn't God." St. Paul is, of course, speaking to a community, a congregation. He's addressing brothers and sisters. Present your bodies, he tells them. He doesn't leave us to figure this out on our own. He's not expecting us to offer ourselves as living sacrifices in the privacy of our own homes or kneeling by our bedside. No, this is a way of life that demands a community of people who show up week by week in a place such as this and offer their lives as living sacrifices again and again. Just show up. We're told that that's 80% of what it takes to be successful. Just show up and with open hands say, "God, I'm yours. Do with me what you will." What would it look like if each Sunday when you arrived, you knelt in your pew before Mass, or right after you receive communion, you go back today and kneel in your pew, and instead of recounting your laundry list of needs to God, expecting God to show up in your story, you said, "God, here I am. Write me into your story, however you see fit." I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice. God promises to do the heavy lifting if we but show up. After the pandemic, we had a family join our parish, and while most of us were getting back in the habit of weekly in-person worship, there they were every Sunday. They've moved away since, but I remember taking some time to thank them several weeks in, to tell them what an encouragement was to see them each week. We made a commitment a few years ago that we were going to have our kids in church, they told me. As they've grown older, that's been a hard commitment to keep. It's meant saying no to a lot of activities and even a few club sports that our kids have been invited to play. We've seen it with our friends and our family. We've seen it with our siblings and their kids. It always starts out a Sunday here or a Sunday there. then soon you realize you've sacrificed God on your altar instead of being sacrificed on his. The next year, their eldest son decided that instead of coming home and getting a summer job like the rest of his college friends, he was going to go work at a church camp in Colorado. Now, I know stories like that might seem a little extreme. They might even seem a little far-fetched and out of your experience. You may not be accustomed to hearing stories like that. After all, we're Episcopalians. But here, at this altar, that's just the sort of thing that can happen on a Sunday like this, when you present your bodies as living sacrifices to the living God. Amen.